I used to hate my pain, avoid the feelings like a winter rain. I'd run away, hiding the hurt with a drink or an angry word, until the day I could not deny the healing calling from deep inside. It was a love that was here to mend. My broken heart could be my friend. On the other side, I will rise above our mountains, here to climb. As I grow, I stumble and I fall, but I am grateful for it all. On the other side, there is peace beneath the pain, a tender tear that I can't explain, washing away the fearful wounds, bearing a light for my life to bloom. And on the other side, I will rise above the mountains I must climb. And as I grow, I stumble and I fall. I am grateful for it all. On the other side, on the other side, I live my dreams, finding joy, freeing me. On the other side, I will rise above our mountains, I will climb. And as I grow, I stumble and I fall, but I am grateful for it all. On the other side, on the other side, ooh, on the other side.
On the other side, this teaching is all about living on the other side. And we are on the other side of so many things as we welcome you today into the Center for Spiritual Living, Midtown. I'm here to remind you that such is the nature of life. All it asks and all it wants is the opportunity to appear. You are that opportunity, and so am I, and so it is. Life appears in us, as us, through us, and shows up in many, many ways. Today, we're going to be looking at one of those and talking about being pushed by our pain. Our theme for this month is a call, the soul's call, that something within us that transcends our personalities, that transcends our everyday stuff and thinking, and calls us to something greater. That leaves us so in much of our discontent, because our soul is longing for something greater, something more, something better, something more godlike. So I'm glad you're here with us, whoever you are, wherever you come from, whatever part of the world you're in. We have folks here, and we are talking to people all over the world. Very happy about that. Very happy that people are tuning in and finding value in what we're doing here. So whoever you are, welcome. I invite you to get comfortable wherever you're sitting, wherever you are, so that you can breathe deeply, so that you can feel what's going on in yourselves, and so that you can participate not only by listening and looking, but by going deeper in your own consciousness and listening and looking. What matters most is what's happening inside of each of us as we respond to these great ideas and great words and ideas of greater truth, and we respond to what it means to move to the other side. We are a center that welcomes all people from all backgrounds, from all styles, from all life choices and life givens. None of us choose what ethnicity we're born into, or where we show up, or what our genetic makeups are. And we welcome you and celebrate you, whoever you are, and whatever that may be, whatever religious path you're traveling, or whatever way in which you see and understand yourself as participating in life. So in that truth and in that knowing, I would like to remind you a little more of who we are and what we teach. And you can see this in our Declaration of Principles, which I'll share with you now. I believe in one God, one absolute power, and first cause to all things. I believe that this power is perfect love, and it creates out of desire to express love. I believe all thought is creative, and how I choose to think creates my personal experience. I believe in the unity of all life and the immortality of the individual soul forever unfolding. I believe in the eternal goodness, the eternal kindness, and the eternal givingness of God to all. And so it is. So at this time, we always introduce a practitioner to come forward. A practitioner is someone who is trained in this teaching, who knows how to use its principles for themselves or others, who is licensed because of the demonstration of what they have been able to participate in and accomplish in allowing Spirit to move through them on behalf of others. Now, every minister in religious science and Centers for Spiritual Living particularly are practitioners first. Not only are we practitioners first by becoming practitioners, licensed practitioners, in our path to ministry and in our credentialing towards ministry, but we are practitioners first in practice. Because before I do anything or think anything or begin to even approach anything in terms of my role as a minister, it starts with recognizing the truth, with going beyond the appearances to the place beyond where there is a greater truth of life, and seeing life from the highest, most whole perspective possible, which is what a practitioner does. And in doing that, they can see your life and my life from that same perspective. So today I would like to share with you some thoughts about today's talk and some thoughts about this whole idea of push by pain. Ernest Holmes says that we are indeed in a world that gives us a whole lot of challenges. And there's sometimes folks say, well, why would God let this happen or God let that happen? And the answer from this teaching from our founder, Ernest Holmes, is that we are set free. We are set free to discover who we are, and we cannot discover who we are if we're sheltered from the very essence of that. I have a quote here for you from Dr. Holmes. Because you see, what he says is we must transcend the appearance, even though we admit the appearance as fact. We are not so cold or cold-blooded as to say to a person who is in pain that there is no such thing as pain. That's cold-blooded and brutal. We don't do that. We don't believe that. That is not our idea or our purpose. We admit the fact. The fact is there's pain. However, it is quite a different thing to admit that it's necessary. And that's what we're going to be talking about a little more later today. But for now, recognizing that this idea of our teaching sometimes being accused of being Pollyanna or bypass is one of the popular words right now for accusations, as if somehow looking to the positive, looking to the greater idea beyond, is bypassing the reality that pain is real and that is happening in your life. However, pain is not necessary. And when we look at that reality of the pain clearly enough and honestly enough, it can transform and begins to transform. But I'll hold that for later. So for right now, I'd like to invite you just to get comfortable. Think about something that's perhaps a source of pain in your life. Something that has been bugging you, or that you perhaps have carried for a long time, or perhaps is brand new, or perhaps is minor or major. I said to someone this week, the only thing that's major about pain is if it's happening to somebody else, which is kind of callous, and I don't really mean that. But I'm sorry, the only thing that's minor about pain. I said it backwards. But for right now, get an idea, a thought of something you would like to know better about, something you would like to see beyond the appearance of, to have revealed to you the greater truth behind it and the greater purpose in it showing up in your life. So I will do this in the first person, and I invite you to also take it for yourself in the first person. There is only one power, one infinite intelligence, one universal presence, and that presence some call God, some call spirit, some call life, some call infinite intelligence. None of the names fully grasp what it really is, because it is beyond. How do you name the infinite as any particular way? And so without a name and without holding it in a box, we recognize its presence. I take a breath and I release it, and I feel the presence of that light, that life within me. I feel myself as being larger than my physical body. I feel that expansion as I open to the awareness that I am far more than an individual expression or an individual bag of water and ego. That I am an individuated version of this infinite with all of its abilities and qualities, and available and present to me and through me to utilize and allow to flow. And so when I think my word or speak my word, I do so knowing that I am using this word as a power to create. Just as in the original creation stories, the word was spoken and creation happened. And so right here and right now, I choose to create a better idea. I look squarely at the things that are happening in my life that bring me pain, perhaps one particular pain. I look at the pain of isolation that we've all lived through, and I have certainly lived through in this last 15 months. And I choose to look beyond that into the deeper awareness that in that apparent outside-facing isolation, I have never been alone. I am always presenced by this infinite power, and I simply turn to that power now, recognizing my forever companion will never leave me, will never, ever abandon me in any way, shape, or form. So this one power, this light, this life brings to me a relief, a freedom. As I look into the pain, I look through the pain into the greater idea of truth. I look into the pain of relationships, into the truth of love as an eternal presence within me, not dependent on anyone else. As I look into the pain of poverty, I look into that with the clarity that poverty of mind is something I can control. And so I begin to create that mental idea of prosperity. I allowed a recognition that prosperity is abundant everywhere. I have a prosperity of cells in my body. I have a prosperity of air to breathe and thoughts to think. Millions of thoughts that run through all the time. I have a prosperity of care. And I have a prosperity of funds and sources and resources. And I think of health and the pain of health, the pain of particular places in my body that may be uncomfortable or that are hurting. And I recognize that they are simply returning to a stasis, returning toward a place of health, a place of wholeness, a place of completeness. And that's what the pain's all about. And so I move into that awareness, feeling it deeply. And I awaken within my body the pattern for perfect health that's already there. And I think of my work and the things that I do, and I think of the struggles around work that I may have. And I find that depth of recognition that I have such great gifts to give, and so do each of us. And work is simply the opportunity, the place, the way in which I give them. Because I have to give them, because it's my creative nature to do so. And so I get out of the way and I let Spirit simply move through me in expressing all of these greater ideas and greater truths, which simply allow me to breathe through the pain into something far greater. So I live my life in freedom. I live my life in joy. I live my life grateful in every situation. And in that, find such a relief and such a lightness and such a freedom of living. And so I step from this moment into the next and into the next, anticipating the great yet to be, the great next iteration of my life that is rich and free and powerful and according to my desire and my understanding and my intention for it. I'm grateful that I have within me this power. I'm grateful I have this ability. So in this gratitude, I can release this now. I can let it be. And so it is. And so as we move now into another piece of music, it's a lively one. It lets you dance right into the other side.
Ever wondered why some men crawl while some men fly? It's a decision of the soul. Life is always what you make it. You can live or you can fake it. It's a decision of the soul. Anytime you're rearranging, it's the soul that does the changing. You can use your inspiration to extend your limitations. It's a decision of the soul. When your life is rearranging, it's the soul that does the changing. Life's a book, so turn the pages, seek the wisdom of the ages. It's a decision of the soul. It's a decision of the soul. It's a decision of the soul.
Decision of the soul. I have a wonderful masseuse and body worker that I work with. She is a medical masseuse, so she does a very specific and intentional work on the various challenging areas of my body. Because, as you know, I've been around the sun a few times, and so that always comes with a certain amount of wear and tear, and so I go in and see her fairly regularly, and it hurts. It hurts. I tell her, I can't believe I'm paying you to hurt me like this. I also accuse her that we need to get her some black boots. Well, I won't go down that road any further. But anyway, you get the vision, you get the idea, and one of the things that she has taught me that has been a metaphor for all of the other areas and levels of pain in my life. But one of the things she taught me early on in working with her is that when she finds a sore spot and she starts sticking her thumb all the way through it, it feels like, and the pain goes through the roof, that I have two responses I can make. I can fight it and tense up and try to not let it hurt so much, which is my natural response, because nobody likes pain. We brace against it. We pull away from it. We push against it in so many different ways. And when I do that, and I do that still, it hurts worse. And because she doesn't let up. She's relentless that way. But the other choice is to try to relax, try to breathe into it, to try to allow myself to welcome the pain, because it's an indicator of where something is changing or needs to change or is about to change. And when I relax and breathe into that spot that she has set on fire with her massage, it's amazing sometimes to me how quickly I can go from intense pain into complete relief. And she swears she didn't move her thumb or stop squeezing anything quite as hard. It all happens inside of me. My pain is inside of me, not out there somewhere. Now I can give credit for it out there if I want to, and blame things from people and whatever, and I can always find a connection to something out there. I am this way because of. Or I can let the story go, and I can simply breathe into and lean into the pain. You know, and this is true whether I'm talking about loneliness, financial troubles, pain around the loss of someone, anxiety or depression, addictions, whatever the pain is that you're feeling and experiencing. So there's a kind of choosing to receive or accept the pain. Not that it's always going to be there, or not that you can accept it or resign yourself to it. That's different. This is about accepting and feeling into it and letting it be. Kind of like Holmes talks about, we in this teaching, we learn to look at any discordant fact clearly until we know better. And with pain, once you know better, once your body knows better. I mean, our bodies are amazing. These are these great indicators of what's happening in the consciousness fields around us and within us. They are great, like almost like antennas that can show us what's going on in our minds, what's going on in our hearts, what's going on in our relationships, what's going on in the world around us, because all of that is filtered through our consciousness into these physical expressions, which also then filter information back to us when we stop and listen to it and pay attention. I've spent the first 45, 50 years of my life living from here up. I didn't want to feel the rest of that stuff because it hurt, avoiding the pain. When I learned to feel down into myself and get connected with the rest of me, I discovered I had feet. It's amazing that I can actually feel. And a belly that could tell me when I'm hungry instead of just my mouth or my addictive drives. And I began to connect in life and in its flow in a very different way. See, pain serves us in some really, really interesting ways. In Peruvian culture, in the old Aztec, not Aztec, wrong group, Inca. The Inca people believe that there is no positive and negative energy. There's no positive and negative anything. There is only one direction and one truth and one power, and that moves, but it is sometimes light and free, and it's sometimes condensed and heavy. So they talk about heavy energy and light energy, for energy is always flowing in one direction. It's just how condensed it is. So in learning to hike in the mountains in Peru, they taught us to consciously imagine releasing our heavy energy, the heavy energy of fatigue, the heavy energy of pain in your legs and feet when you've walked more miles than you're accustomed to, and all of that kind of stuff, to just imagine releasing it into the earth, and Pachamama, Mother Earth, accepting that energy just like fertilizer and bringing it back to you as heightened energy, as light energy, as energy to take the next step. It was amazing what people could do, what I could do, what others could do that I traveled with in climbing places you never would have thought we could, and walking up and down mountains without stopping to take a lot of breaks, because we learned to work with releasing that heavy energy. But you got to feel it to know it in order to release it. So pain is like that fertilizer that just really gives us the stuff to show us where we are and where we're going and what we are. And that's one really powerful way to think about it. That pain that my therapist always pulls up is there because something isn't flowing right. Blood flow is slowed down. Some other energetic kind of flow is slowed down and getting plugged up. And so the pain shows up to fertilize, just like it fertilizes the earth, fertilizer in the earth to grow flowers and grow beautiful things. What looks like something's dying and dead is really just transforming into another form to come back as a flower or a bush or whatever. So those of you who are gardeners, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Well, the same thing is true in our consciousness. Those things which we seem to have pushed against until they just hurt are telling us we need to stop pushing on that. We need to look for something different. Maybe what we're pushing against is trying to make happen what we don't even want to begin with. I had a friend a few years ago. We were in a practitioner practice together, treating for each other. And one day he said, you know, I just realized that, well, everything that we've been treating for the last 2 weeks, I don't want to do anyway. No wonder it hasn't happened. It's what I thought I was supposed to do, not what I really want. Pain will show us that. It stops us. So we look back and go within and figure out what's really going on here. This is not about saying what's in your consciousness, you bad and evil person. This is about simply recognizing that we are all on a path towards a greater understanding of ourselves, greater understanding of the world in which we live, greater understanding of the universe. And pain is just part of the teacher in that, which is the second part. Pain's not a punishment. I mean, I sometimes think that. Sometimes I think my current pain is a punishment for all the misbehavior I did in the past. My teacher, Ernest Holmes, used to say that we spend the first half of our lives messing everything up and screwing it up so we have something to do in the last half of our lives fixing it. And I kind of felt like there was some truth in that. But what we do have is the opportunity where pain is showing us what we are reaching for or what we're needing to do or what we're feeling to do. It's in calling us to a greater growth. Pain about relationships. A lot of pain about a relationship that's not working. Maybe calling you into a better relationship. Or calling you towards creating that relationship, transforming yourself in that relationship to create a better experience. Because you're in charge. You get to choose. You know, pain and prosperity. Who of us have not made some financial decisions we wish we hadn't at some point? And the pain of that guides us toward making better decisions and opens us up to the recognition that even with our bad decisions, and even sometimes with the struggle for the rent to get paid or whatever, we're still eating. We're still alive. We're still breathing and on the planet. We are prospering in so many other ways. And if I can begin to get my mind around what are those other ways and how do I celebrate them more, then all of the kinds of prosperity starts to show up in my life. And the pain points me toward that. I was thinking about COVID. We've all been through a lot of pain with COVID, and the last thing I would do is minimize any of that. Many of you have lost family members and friends. Others of you have lost jobs. We've lost a lot with COVID. We've all struggled back and forth about masks, or to wear or not to wear, to vaccinate or not to vaccinate, and all that kind of stuff that's just rolling around in our world right now. It's not just in America, but it's all over the world. But you know, there's another view of that. And that is that the COVID pandemic has also opened us up to a worldwide conspiracy for caring. A worldwide conspiracy for caring. So that when we see these warring things that people are doing to one another in the name of one political system or one religion or another, it all stands out in such stark contrast to the fact that for the last 15 months, the world has worked together to find solutions and ways and protections, and things have held and shut down and supported all kinds of life-changing, huge shifts in our lives. But it's in the name of caring for the health of humanity. I think that's pretty profound change. We've never, ever experienced anything like this together as a human race on this planet that I'm aware of. So pain is not punishment. Pain is a guidance and an opening to something greater. It's actually it's a pathway to a greater vision of who we are and what we're about and what being human really means. You know, the other half of this phrase that we started, that this talk is based on, pushed by pain, came from Michael Beckwith, at least that's where I heard it, that we as human beings are pushed by our pain until we are pulled by our vision. Pushed by our pain until we're pulled by our vision. Now, he doesn't say we're on this one track of being pushed by pain, and then we get off of that track, and then we go get over here and get pulled by our vision. It's the same path. The pain is the path to the vision. The pain is the path to what you want to be. I know that a large part of the reason I'm in ministry, a large part of the reason that I was a therapist for many years, was that I was pushed by the pain of dysfunction that I never understood, of pain that I didn't understand for a long time, of behaviors in my family and in my world. And I grew up in a really bullying culture. And all of that made no sense to me. And that pain drove me to understand and to learn and to love. And it became a vision of becoming a helping person, because if I could help myself and I could help others, then we could shift everything. And that was an evolving, awakening vision. It didn't start there, but I was always driven towards helping professions, toward ministry, towards some way to alleviate my pain and I was caught in the vision of how to do that, because I knew that God, spirit, power, on some intuitive level, was the answer to all of that. So our pain pushes us until the vision catches us. And that vision is the idea to replace the consciousness that creates the pain with a consciousness of freedom and power and health and joy. And that isn't a one-time do it and it's all over with thing. That's a every day we shift and change, and every day we look at this and we move into that. We look at the small picture and we reach for the larger picture. It means renewing our commitment every day to a life well lived. To a life well lived for each of us individually and for those around us, our families, our communities, our loved ones. One of the things about replacing things in consciousness, we already said, we need to replace one kind of consciousness to create a whole new way of being. You don't do that by dumping the whole thing out. I wish you could. Well, if you could, we'd all be zombies at some point. We'd have that zombie period where we wouldn't know who or what in the heck we were. And many of us have that during big, heavy transitions. But what we really do to change that consciousness from that which is creating the pain into that which can support the growth and the possibilities and the joy and the freedom is by doing it one little idea at a time. Ernest Holmes used the example that you take a glass of muddy water, you want to replace it. You don't dump it out and leave the glass empty of anything but air. But you take the muddy water and little by little, you start to drop into it drops of clean, clear, pure ideas, drops of truth, drops of love and compassion, drops that will gradually clear the water. Slower, but it maintains you as a being. And slower, as your consciousness clears, you find greater freedom of life, greater goodness, and more time living on the other side of the pain, whatever the pain is that may show up for you. 3 things you can do to help that along. Look for the qualities of spirit, the qualities of God that you hear about, we talk about, teach about. Look for those and see what seems most powerful in your life and what seems to be missing. And practice those which seem to be missing. Things like compassion or love or forgiveness. Things like empowerment. I can consciousness. You know the Henry Ford statement. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. You also need to recognize that you didn't get to this point by yourself. Wherever you are in life, you didn't get here alone. You were born into a relationship, however wonderful or dysfunctional that may have been. You are still living in a world of relationships. You're relating to people all around the planet. I mean, sometimes I stop and think when I order food from a restaurant, how many people have had a part in bringing that to my door. And I like international cuisine, so I end up with things from, that got here through many, many, many channels and many, many people to even get the flavor of it to my house, much less the stuff itself. You're not alone. Never have been. That's one of the lies we tell ourselves, that we're all alone. And it may look like it. I'm not saying it doesn't. There may be great pain around it, but underneath and behind it, you're never alone. You never have been. You never will be. And so we start affirming that and believing that and reaching for that, and it shows up in our lives more and more and more. And then the other third thing that helps us begin to really shift our consciousness is to really ramp up our spiritual practice. I was in a meeting on Saturday, and we were talking about what have been the advantages of this last year and a half. There have been many, many challenges and struggles. But one of the ones that I mentioned and some other people mentioned is that it has allowed me the time and the motivation, especially the motivation, to increase my spiritual practice, to spend more time in meditation, to spend more time in spiritual mind treatment or prayer, whichever word and language you prefer to use for that, to spend more time in listening to people or in reading spiritual literature, sacred texts. That shifts the consciousness. That builds us toward that new something, whatever it might be. So Holmes said this, and I'll close with this thought, this idea, that we have within us a power that can overcome every obstacle in our experience and set us safe, satisfied, and at peace, healed and prosperous in a new light and a new day. I invite you to join me now in this new day. Thank you. So I'd like to take a few moments and invite us into a spiritual practice of the new day. So I invite you to close your eyes and take a moment, take a nice deep breath. If there's a feeling or a thought or an idea that's been floating around as you've listened to this talk, embrace it and then let it go. You can it'll come back in the moment that you need it. It'll show up. And right now, just go with me on an imaginary journey, if you would, into and toward the new day. So you find yourself walking down this gentle path to a river stream or a stream. It's lush, surrounded by trees. It's shady and cool. The water is crystal clear and just the right temperature. And you notice that there is indeed a great and beautiful waterfall there. And so you step into that water and step over to the waterfall and perhaps sit down under it. But let the water just wash over you. Feel that wonderful cleansing. Soaks you to the skin, but feels so good. And as you see that and you feel it and you let it flow, you may choose right now to let that waterfall be a waterfall of forgiveness, A waterfall to simply wash away anything you've been holding on to that's no longer serving you. You don't even have to figure out what it is exactly. Just agree to let it flow, and to let it flow away from you and beyond you. Feel the water bringing you strength and help and health. You can always get wet, so you're never alone. Just imagine the waterfall as being a method, a way of thinking that allows you to simply release. Release whatever pain is left from COVID and from this pandemic and all of the adjustments and things we've all been through in order to live well in this last 15 months to 2 years. Just let that wash away. Let it wash away any family issues that you've held on to that no longer serve you. Love and bless it and let it wash away. Not the family members, but the issues. Anything else you're concerned or afraid about? Any doubt, any fear, just let it wash away. This is a place you can return to anytime in your imagination, and you make it real. And as you prepare to step from under this wonderful flow of light and life and freedom and goodness and, yes, love, know that you bring the water with you. You bring the droplets. You bring the qualities of life with you that you desire to keep. Because there's only one power in the universe, and it is enough, and it is good enough, and you are one example of it. You are one expression of it. So using that power in the mind that you have, imagine that you bring with you all of the qualities that you wish to take into the next best version of your life. Do that with ease, do that with joy, do that with freedom. Because you deserve it, absolutely without a doubt. Because you are wonderful, and so am I, and so it is. Thank you. And now Judy Ailey will talk to us a little about supporting this center. If you found anything of value here, how you can help.
All right. Well, thank you, Dr. Bob, for that extraordinary talk. This is a time where we focus on what we are so grateful for. We are grateful for our center. We're grateful for the support that we have received as a center. Our center is prosperous and growing, and we are so grateful. So this is a time where if you are so moved that you can make your contributions, you'll see on the screen our website, cslmidtown.org, and also the QR scan that you can use. And we just want you to know that we appreciate you, and we appreciate so much the support that you provide for our center. Now, if you will please join with me in our affirmation of prosperity with feeling. Here we go. I live in a universe of abundance. As I freely and joyfully give, I join in the divine flow, and all that I share with life returns to me, multiplied abundantly, and so it is. All right, turn it back over to Dr. Bob. Thanks.
Thank you. So the Center for Spiritual Living Midtown is about to step into the transition into its next great expression of itself. We've been around about eight years now, I think, and maybe 9. Anyway, my math is not always good. We've been around a while, and many of you have been part of this teaching much, much longer than that, as have I. But we are stepping into our next version of the vision, our next version of who we are. We are not going back to anything. You can let that idea go as COVID comes to an end and we begin to engage with each other personally and in new ways. This is all new. We've never done this before. So we're not going back to anything. We're not going back to meeting. We're not going back to doing this or that. We're going forward into a new expression of the Center for Spiritual Living Midtown. We're going to do that by, at some point in the future, in the fairly near future, beginning to meet in person. There are going to be opportunities for that you'll be seeing announcements about and hearing about. There is a survey going out. Please fill it out, because the more information we have from you about what you're looking for, the better. The more informed decision our board can make and I can make in leading us into the next version of the vision. Now, we're going to continue on with our online work. That's not going to diminish in any way. We're not stepping back on that. We're stepping forward and hoping to and planning to take it into a greater expression as well. We're also going to in-person, which will be a combination of the two. And we're looking for all kinds of ways to do that. And we're looking for ideas. If you have them, we will welcome them. And we'll welcome hearing them. I'm not saying we'll do what you say, but we'll welcome hearing about them. So please fill out the survey. You will see it in a newsletter. You will also get it by mail. Do one or the other, whichever you're more comfortable with. If you prefer a piece of paper, you can check it off and mail it back to us. So we look forward to hearing from you and knowing about what's happening. We are in the theme of My Soul's Call. And next week, we're going to be doing, can we see the announcements, please? Thank you. So next week I will be speaking. It's a good thing I looked. I knew that already, actually. I'll lean into the discomfort, not just on the pain, but the discomfort. So we'll be digging a little more into what we talked about today and taking some more detail and work with that. Also, coming up this week, as every week on Zoom during the week, we have two events that are here to support you in living on the other side, in living into the new day, living into the new vision, living into the new idea of yourself in a greater and more powerful way. One of them is at noon Tuesday, which we call Spiritual Empowerment, which is an opportunity to come on Zoom with the same Zoom as here. You can find it on the website, all of that. And in that place and that time, we work with whatever your issues or your desires or your expressions are. We do treatment and we do conversation and we look at whatever good ideas pop up among us. And it's a really wonderful, supportive group of people that come together for that. And then on Wednesday evening at 7:00, during Wonderful Wednesdays, right now I'm doing a whole series on spiritual practice, because again, the way to shift our consciousnness is through spiritual practice. And one of those this week we're going to look into is meditation. We will actually do some meditation. I'll demonstrate a couple of different styles, and then we'll settle into at least one or two and do them and do them together and participate in that as you choose. So I invite you to join us 7 to 8, same place. And then we also have practitioners who are available to you. You can reach out to a practitioner on our website. Those of you on Zoom, you can see the contact information there as well. And they're there for you. They understand. They know what it takes to make the shift in consciousness, to make the shift in experience. And they can help you walk through it for yourself, so that you never, ever, ever have to be alone in any of these challenges that you may have. So that's what's going on this week. And then we've got some other things to watch for information about the in-person events that we'll be adding to our program. And we really look forward to getting to hug people once in a while again. And those of you who aren't close by that we can hug you, well, we'll just keep getting those internet hugs, because that's a good thing too. All right. So in closing, I would like to say that I leave this place now knowing something better than I knew before. I go forth into the world with a heart full of love and a mind full of good sense. I look at the world in a greater way, knowing that I have within me everything I need to create a life I desire. I give thanks for this understanding, and I am grateful for the spirit of life that lives through me. And so it is. Thank you all. Join us, if you will, over on the Zoom link. We're going to be celebrating what month is this? June birthdays, and celebrating a little coffee and conversation together. So look forward to seeing you there. Thank you.